Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Everything CPA and Private Equity. And I am so proud to be at the AICPA ENGAGE Conference 10th anniversary. And I'm here with Mark Koziel, the CEO. And I really feel blessed to have to pinch myself. This is a special moment for not only us at Whitman Advisory, but for all of you, our listeners and viewers out there. So, Mark, we're just going to have a conversation.
Sure.
And really, in as much as we're here, I guess the first thing I'd like to do is say congratulations. It's been an absolutely, wonderful event. We decided to show up in a very big way this year.
Mhm.
We've got about 17 of our folks, and we have a beautiful pavilion, and
Nice.
it's really the way to go. And all you folks have just been really, really kind and special. And I want to thank you for
Well,
that.
no, and it's thanking the team. The team did an incredible job this year, from the selection of the keynotes to just making sure that everyone's experience was just top notch. It's been a lot of excitement and just really well run, and the team did an incredible job.
Yes. It's interesting. When I first started what's now Whitman Advisory, it was just me. 3 years in, I had a stay-at-home mom, but I had come from an environment like where I had an organization where I had about 100 administrative folks,
Mhm.
that were doing all sorts of things as the COO of a top 100 firm. And I kind of missed that. And, we've now got to the point where we're large enough. We like to say we're the single largest advisory firm helping CPA firms in the nation
Mhm.
with 52 people. And I certainly can understand the ability to execute
Mhm.
when you have scale, and you do have an amazing team. I remember the days when it was just me, and I was trying to get a Gail Crosley or a Steve Erickson to come into New York City, and I'd be doing these CPE sessions, and I'd be hammering away on the phones, trying to get, 24 people into a room. It's a lot of work, but the attendance that I've seen here today and the number of people, it's simply amazing.
Well, just shy of 6,000 this year.
Wow.
So, my ultimate goal, I said I could retire when we hit 10. That's where I want to be.
Okay.
I've had this vision for a long time. As you know, I was at AICPA and then left for 5 years and came back as CEO. But I was here for the start of it 10 years ago. And part of planning of that, it used to be my team ran Prac Tech back in the
Yes.
day, and that kind of became the foundation for what became the DAT, NATS, and a few others. And so, I said, we don't have just one ultimate meeting or conference for the entire profession here in the US, and we should. And
Yeah.
that's really what we were kind of going at.
This is the biggest. This has been the best. This has been really awesome.
That's great.
And I look around, I see people with smiles, and I was very, very, very thankful for this. So I kind of want to shift in, and we'll keep this kind of casual.
Mhm.
There's a lot going on in our industry,
There is.
and no matter who you speak with, if they're an influencer or a voice that's heard in our profession, you keep hearing there's never been as much change in our profession as what we're seeing now. Share, from your perspective, because as you said, you were at the AICPA, and then I believe when you detoured out, you spent some time at a Lineal, a great international association of firms. Some great clients of ours are there. How do you compare, seeing what you see today here as CEO of the AICPA compared to when you were interacting with obviously a much smaller group of firms?
Yeah.
But what does all this mean to you and the direction you hope to take the AICPA with all these changes?
Well, for us, it's, helping lead our profession forward, right? And I said, one of the big things, because everybody wants to talk about AI, this is the change, right? But it's always been technology, right? So when I started, it was right in the early days of, I won't even say Excel. We were on Lotus 1, 2, 3, right? And VisiCalc while I was in college. So,
I remember those names.
right. And so, and talking to others who were in practice 40, 45 years ago, when they would talk about the footing room, right? That, the firms had footers. They just sat there all day, every day. Those were your new associates. They were the footers, right?
Yes.
Generally
Yes.
speaking. So,
Yes.
how is that providing talent on how to audit, how to have critical thinking, how to interact with the client, all those skills today that are so much different. And
Yes.
we've transformed into that already.
Yes.
We haven't quite kept up. And this is the same on business and industry. I've had a lot of conversations with CFOs bringing new associates in. They used to do the debits and the credits. Now they're being asked to do the critical thinking and analytics immediately.
Yes.
But they haven't done the base. And this is where I see it as our job. We keep talking a lot about a simulator model, get the training up. So that's all well before AI even comes into play. Now
Yes.
AI comes into play and it changes it even more. But we're still in the same game. And this is where, talking about advisory, talking about the different things that we need to do, I see it as even greater opportunity. And we are hitting this kind of cliff on talent that is going to be, unstoppable. The fact that the number of students each and every year coming out of school in total are less than they're ever going to be, and far less than we're going to have in retirements and CPAs. So we need to figure out how to do things differently anyway.
Yes.
So for me, it's opportunistic that this is here now, but we got to train up the young associates. We still need to hire them and make sure that we're.
What you said absolutely resonates with me as someone that used to be in a firm trying to recruit that talent and now having an organization where we go out and we provide talent solutions. Yep. Do you think that with AI, we always say, the PCPS section every year, didn't matter, small, medium, large firm, giant size firm, talent was always on that list of one of the pain points. And most years at the top of that list. Yeah. And I would always say as a former COO that was on that side of the desk trying to bring that talent in, and now as a provider trying to bring that talent to all of our clients, the perception that, and I've been in 42 years, by the way, I remember my first portable computer. It was like 45 pounds. It was a compact and the keyboard folded down and there was a 5-inch monochromatic amber screen. Yep. And we were proud to lug that. I got a portable computer.
That's right. That's
with
right.
a 5 1/4 floppy disks that you would stick inside. Right. But in any event, as it relates to talent, the Big Four historically hire about 75% of all graduates. Now, when you and I went to school, the Big Four went to select schools. They didn't hire everyone from every school. And I think back then, if a Big Four hired you and, you wanted to have that on your resume, they were very selective. It was a really big deal. To me today, the Big Four, they hire 75% of accountants from all over, from every university, as long as they're good quality folks. I understand young folks still wanting to get that on their resume. Now we're hearing the Big Four are hiring less. Obviously they've got tech. Do you think talent is a problem that will ever go away?
No, not as far as the profession's concerned. It's, what's interesting is I don't know if we had a talent problem when I graduated. I graduated in 91, Buffalo, practiced in Buffalo. And I remember my senior year, this fall of my senior year when recruiting season is, and going to the Career Center and seeing a list of interviews being half of what they were the year before. We had the S&L crisis there and then.
Yes.
There were 3 banks that went down in Buffalo. There were accountants on the street everywhere. Not only in the banks, they were gone, but the firms that audited them, those auditors were gone too. Massive layoffs in my junior year. We all heard about it. The firms hired half as many. Then you fast forward into the mid-90s, all of a sudden everyone's talking about a talent crunch.
Yes.
Right? Where are all the seniors at? Right? And I had 6 first interviews, got called back at 5 of the 6. The one that didn't call me back, I ended up spending most of my public accounting career with. I went to work for 3 years later.
Which firm was that?
That was Dobkins & Company.
Okay.
I started with Lumsden McCormick, and then I moved to Dobkins, but Dobkins didn't hire any staff in 91. In 94, they're like, we need seniors.
Yes.
And this is where I keep saying, for all the firms, we have to keep producing them. We're trying to make everybody immediately billable, and that's not going to be the case. And if we get off these hours times rate thing, and everybody immediately has to be profitable in those first couple of years, it's really going to be about simulation and learning in the environment of the firm and on actual client data, because they're not going to have that opportunity out at the client to do that. Because the pyramid, as we've known it, that new associate, what we've always asked them to do, people are like, well, we're lopping off the bottom. Well, we're not. We're raising up the bottom.
We're elevating them.
That's right.
Yes.
The senior manager is where we start now, but we're going to need to invest that talent, because there's going to be, and we can never ask the universities to teach that because they're going to need to do it on actual client
It has
data.
to be on the job training. It has to be, you're the partner.
That's right.
I'm that young person. I got to be attached to your hip and be a sponge in order to
That's right.
learn, because so I graduated in 83. I started at Price Waterhouse a year, and that was it. I ended up going to a large international firm, Spicer and Oppenheim,
Sure.
who ultimately blew up. They had a big insurance claim. I left before then. But in 86, I started a restaurant business. I left public accounting. I did audit. I did tax. I had this opportunity. We did a private placement memorandum, raised about $687,000. I got into the restaurant business. But in 1991, we were out, had massive layoffs. Blue Point Labs closed up. And we always thought fast food would be recession proof. And I was a Popeye's Famous Fried Chicken and Biscuit franchisee. Had a 5-store contract really early. There were no Popeyes anywhere here in the Northeast, not like there are today. But in any event, I exited that business in 1991.
Yep.
And I decided to go back into public accounting, fried chicken for the rest of my life. So it was so hard getting a job. I was fortunate. I landed a per diem job at Citron Cooperman.
Wow.
From February 15th to April 15th.
Yep.
And I worked with Joel and Niles, and they were getting ready to move. They were outgrowing their space. I literally worked in a closet because they were busting at the seams. I was a senior tax accountant.
Yep.
Probably back then making about $30,000 a year. And they said, April 15th came and they said, you did a wonderful job. After we move to new space, we'll reach out to you, stay in touch. Maybe we'll have a job for you. And literally a week later, they called me up and they said, Phil, we have a client. It's a law firm. They've been liened and levied by the IRS in New York State. Can you go in, straighten them out, 6 to 8 weeks, and by then we will have moved and we'll have a place for you.
That's great.
And that's how my practice management career was born. But 1991, firms were not hiring.
That's right.
I mean, for me, it was a per diem job. And, that was in the day, though, that you couldn't go online.
No.
There was no online. It was like I'd be looking through. At one point, the New York Times would have 5, 6, 7 pages of accountant jobs. And in 1991, maybe there was like one column.
That's right. And, and that's the thing. But it also shows the resiliency of the profession that 91, we suffered through that. And by 94, we're short.
Yes.
And then I don't know that we've ever recovered since, to be honest. That I remember now the shortage ever since. But the careful of yes and no. But part of the issue is, and this year especially, we actually have a surplus of candidates because of the change. And 40 states have already passed adding a bachelor's plus 2.
Yep.
So you have bachelor students and 150-hour students all coming out at the same time in 2026.
Yes.
So more than we've seen. And, and this is why, and going back to the simulator model and talking about this and why it's important to the firms, American Airlines hires pilots, but once they hire the pilots, they bring them to their simulators.
Yes.
To learn on American Airlines equipment. They don't do it in the air.
Nope.
They do it down in Miami. I actually have a neighbor who is a trainer for American Airlines at the Miami simulator.
My son is a pilot. He went to Embry-Riddle. And you're absolutely right. He went to train on a Pilatus PC-12. He didn't go up in the plane. He spent 10, 12 hours in a simulator. It was like real.
That's right.
But on the ground and safe, and you're not going to crash a $10, $12 million.
We don't want new associates crashing our clients either. So let's get them in a simulator.
Exactly.
They can learn there. You can even have
I love that analogy.
Yeah. And so we're building the simulator. It'll be scalable to all size firms. And I'm excited about that. That is part of our job to really help move the profession forward with that, I think.
So talent is absolutely something we're keeping a pulse on. I do believe that part of the challenges up until this point, and I think it's going to dissipate a little bit, is Big Four would hire 75%. And many of them work the way we used to work, like baby boomers, 60, 70, 80, 90 hours a week in, week out. And some of the people that leave Okay, they're very good, but they get burnt out. And I think as a profession, we haven't done a wonderful job educating those folks that go to the Big Four that the middle market world, and once you go down, it's very different. We started rolling out the red carpet in the early 2000s because we had that problem. And so sometimes the middle market firms never get a chance at hiring some of these wonderful people because their perception is this is what public accounting is about. This is what it's going to be like no matter where I go.
Yeah, I think the Big Four have been better than in the prior years, and it is a demanding profession in general. But I've said time and again, it's out there in many different ways, and I think it's been more the type of person that we attract to the profession that has that ingrained in them. And those are the ones that tend to succeed. I had 9 W-2s in my senior year of college trying to pay for getting through school. I could tell you digging fence posts in 95-degree heat, that's hard work.
That's hard work.
So it's, but I chose this profession. I felt lucky to be chosen, that the profession chose me. And so I gave back to my employers in the same way. And, I think you're right. And I do think that there's opportunity now for all size firms to hire talent on campus, but also I think in an internship model, getting some interns in and real world experience, and so that they could see what a localized firm could be. I practiced in a local firm my whole career. So, I can appreciate that. I appreciated being so close to my entrepreneurial clients, having not-for-profit clients along the way, did a little bit of governmental. And so, yeah, I just felt like part of the community as part of that. So it was, for me, a great learning experience.
Excellent. Switching over to AI, there's a myriad of vendors here in the exhibit halls. Some seemingly overnight have popped up, and some of them are making real tracks. Some of them are very aspirational. But, if you were to look into your crystal ball and let's take it forward 5 years from now when it's the 15th Engage and we do have 10,000 people showing up. What does that exhibit hall look like? Do we have more of those AI vendors, or has there been sort of a little bit of a shakeout? And do you foresee any other changes coming? Because we, as a profession, I think whenever there was an event, Y2K, wonderful event, you had the dot-com bubble. There was opportunities that arose out of it for CPAs. We had the Madoff scandal. Anytime there was something that was bad, then we had the housing crisis. And maybe for a short period, things were bad, but then things really started to boom after that. And we were, as a profession, able to react to things. And even you look at the pandemic, the PPPs and the EIDLs and the extra work, and some firms monetized it, some firms didn't. But in all, good economies, bad economies, travesties, tragedies, things that happen, the CPA has always been very resilient and has come back to be stronger and more profitable. And that was before AI was here. Look into your crystal ball. What do we look like as a profession in 5 years? Those people that start straight out of school that we just talked about. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, first to the point of resiliency, we are typically as a profession the last to fall into a recession and the first to come out. So any recessionary period, ours is completely shortened in compared to many other things. But that said, and we have transformed through all of these technological changes we've been through. This is happening at the fastest pace that I've ever seen. It took a while for Excel, it took a while for even blockchain, still hasn't really kind of transformed into itself. So it's going to happen incredibly fast. Now, many of the exhibitors who are here today around AI, they are here around helping us integrate AI into application on audit, CAS, tax, which is great. And we're going to have all of that. But then there's this bigger ecosystem around AI to capture, which is, there's a lot of conversation around controls over AI. The federal government came out with the Great American AI Act that they're trying to build a framework and trying to keep the states at bay. Over 1,700 proposed AI-related bills around the country right now. And it can end up being the Wild West of AI oversight.
Yes.
but we need to be a big part of that. COSO has already put out papers on AI in internal controls for corporations. I envision, because our profession, we have it all, right? So we have business industry, we have public accounting. In the finance teams, I can see that they have the burden or the opportunity to manage the controls over AI for their company.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also can be the finance partner to help business leads with using AI and ensuring that the AI output that they get is appropriate to make decisions on, whether it's the sales team or the production team. Sales team says, I want to figure out if this geography is profitable, not profitable, or if I should move into this geography. So they're going to need help with the prompts, and the finance team can work side by side to not only help deliver the prompt and get the information, but then validate the information when it comes out and say, yep, this is going to help you make your decision. And then from there, the controls over the entire organization and the data that they have access to, then the firm comes in, much like we do internal control assurance now, provide assurance over the AI controls to make sure that it's appropriate and being able to report on that.
So now you're the first person that has really shared that vision with me about the CPA, opining on the certification of the security of, the AI that's in the companies.
That's right.
As it relates to governance, as I walk around the exhibit hall, I see, as you said, a lot of application-focused AI companies, but there's no one there, and everyone's talking about AI, but there are relatively few people that are really focused and talking about AI governance. We always say you got to put it in a sandbox. You have to have guardrails.
That's right.
And just to share with you, they're here. They're a strategic partner. I happen to be introduced to this company called Huge Data Farms. Imagine this. CEO, brilliant guy. It's a team of 3 right now, but he put together an AI, it's called the AI Governance Lab. And what did I do? I called a CTO at a big firm that I knew, and I said, do me a favor. I think there's something amazing here for CPA firms. And he runs a group of about 200 CTOs across the country. He sat in on a demo, and after the demo, he said to me, Phil, you are sitting on a gold. Every CPA firm needs this. And not only that, it will be an amazing advisory service offering. Every business client of every CPA firm needs this.
Yes.
So AI governance, it's real. I mean, people don't realize.
Yep.
A partner gives a young kid, hey, here's a letter from the IRS, write a response for me. I used to get that kind of stuff, and I got to say, Joe wants me to write. I don't even know where to begin. I've never done this. Back then, I couldn't take it, scan it in, put it up into ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot or any one of those large language learning modules, LLMs. I always like to throw language in there. I don't know why.
Yes.
But in any event, kid scans that in. That information is out there.
That's right.
So, and I think people don't realize, I think people are either very impressed with the speed with which they get an answer, which I know sometimes is not the right answer. And the reason they call it large learning modules is because it gets smarter. I tell it, no, you're wrong. Or what about this? Have you considered this? Oh, you're right. By the way, and then it becomes smarter and smarter. But, AI governance, I think it's critical. I think we're going to see, we've seen rogue AI tools start to buy cryptocurrency on their own and get into people's emails. So, I mean, I always tell people, you have to be inquisitive. You have to explore this stuff, but you have to be very, very careful.
Sure.
So, but I love that. And again, you're the first person that shared that vision.
Yeah, Big Four are already starting to provide some level of AI assurance over their clients. So it's kind of out there now. And this is where I say, too, as a profession, we also have the responsibility, I think, of, you have the adoption curve, your innovator, early adopter, early majority, late majority, laggard. We're never going to change that.
Those are the laggards are the ones, the ostriches with their heads in the
it's so not everybody moves at the same speed.
No.
So, for us, it's not about trying to eliminate or trying to make everybody an innovator. but it's to shrink the timeline from beginning to end. Every one of these, as some new innovation comes in, we need to get it integrated into the marketplace faster. So how do we get it from the innovators to the early adopters faster? How do we get it from the early adopters to the early majority faster? And I think that's our responsibility, to kind of have the tools and resources available so the firms know. And then they also know how many. It used to kill me in the old days. You mentioned PCPS. I had a firm leader call me one time, the CEO. He's like, we're really struggling with our performance management. And so I'm just wondering, like, if you've seen any kind of best practices out there and things. I said, well, this is a large firm, by the way. I said, PCPS has a performance management tool. I said, I actually wrote it, so I remember it, right? So I said, and I it's fantastic. And he's like, oh, that's great. He looked at it, he reviewed it. He's like, oh my God, this is fantastic. I think we're going to use it. Who else has used it, right?
Yes.
Like, it's that validation, even though he sees it as being the right tool, but tell me somebody else has used it first.
Yes. And that mindset, when we initially launched an offshoring partnership, it was Sue Coffey. It was during the pandemic, maybe 2020, 2021, at an AICPA council meeting. She said, with all the PPPs and the EIDLs, there's not going to be enough auditors to go around. We went to the Philippines. We found a partner. A year after we inked the agreement, you know how many CPAs from the Philippines we had working with our CPA firms?
Right.
Absolutely zero.
Okay.
And you know why? Because everyone we talked to said, who else is using it?
That's right.
The thing that you just said.
That's right.
And then we were fortunate. We had one firm that didn't say that.
Right.
Today we have about 250 people in the Philippines, and it's been amazing. But AI is coming.
Yep.
Right. And I think all these offshoring companies, they also are going to have to, that simulator that you talked about, they're going to have to step up those people. Otherwise, firms aren't going to use it. So as we wrap up, Mark, there are so many different directions I could have taken this, and I've really enjoyed this. Is there anything you'd like to share with our listenership that, your thoughts, anything that I haven't asked you?
No, I just feel good. I'm excited about the future. There's a reason why I came back to the AICPA. It just, it's my home. I said I made him play Ozzy Osbourne, I'm Coming Home, when my first meeting.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it was, we've done so many things in such 18 months. It's amazing to think that that's all it is. In the regulatory, we've been all over. It's been great. The legislative team's been fantastic. Meeting with the IRS. We just have so many opportunities. Rise 2040, visioning out 15 years, making sure we're staying on top of it.
Excellent.
The CPA trust campaign, especially now I mentioned the AI Act, there's semblance of verification that they want to put in that. We need to make sure we're at the table as verifiers.
100%.
So running a CPA trust commercial in DC is not a bad idea right now.
Yep.
And we were prepared. We were already prepared to do that. And the act drops, and it's like, yep, timing couldn't have been better. So,
awesome.
For us, it's just re-engaging the profession and making sure that we're all on top of it, and being the stewards that we need to be, that there are going to be many CPAs that will follow us and be as successful as we are.
So awesome.
Great.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
For our listeners out there, it's been a pleasure to be here in Las Vegas at the Aria Hotel. We're with Mark Koziel, CEO of the AICPA. If you've liked this, like it, subscribe, and share it with your friends. And if you're not a member of the AICPA, you're missing out on tremendous opportunities, the collaboration, the networking. It's absolutely worth every penny of your dues. So if you're not a member, please, this is what you get. Some wonderful thought leadership with an amazing team behind them. Again, Mark, I thank you so much.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, everyone.